Hey guys, welcome to Mustangs on Air. We're here diving into topics about college and everyday life. It's Sexual Harassment Awareness Month. I'm talking with Rachel Fornoff, our Title IX coordinator. Thank you, Rachel, for being here today.
Thank you.
Here's a couple questions I would like to ask you about Sexual Harassment Awareness Month. What events are planned Sexual Assault Awareness Month?
Throughout the month, and it should be going up this week, we've got a new set of flyers in bathrooms around campus going up, just kind of talking a little bit about some of the statistics and facts and why we even have a Sexual Assault Awareness Month. We also had, just this last week, Take Back the Night, which was an event that supported and provided a space for survivors to come together and campus community members to come together and kind of celebrate the fact that we have survivors on our campus and that we want to end sexual violence on our campus. And then one other kind of large-scale event that we have is at the end of the month on April 24th. It's called Denim Day. We're asking people to make donations, and all those donations will go to First Step, which is our local domestic violence shelter. But Denim Day is kind of representative of some of the myths that our society has about sexual assault. And we ask people to wear jeans because an Italian Supreme Court decision in the late 90s, the judges in that case found that the woman could not have been sexually assaulted because she was wearing tight jeans. So we wear jeans as a representation of some of those myths.
Basically, what was the message that you hope that Take Back the Night gave to students?
Yeah, well, I had really hoped, and I think that we achieved this outcome, was to show that MSU's campus community is supportive of individuals who are survivors and victims of sexual violence, in that we are all committed as a community and as an institution to ending sexual violence on campus.
How would you have assessed the climate around the issues related to sexual assault on our campus when you first arrived here?
So when I first got here, I think just as a whole, our students were really, they wanted to see some action taken by the university just to show that obviously I don't think anyone here thought that the university didn't care, but they wanted to see more, right? They wanted to see more programming and just kind of more of that non-passive action taken. I think from our faculty and staff, I think one of the things that they wanted is they wanted to know more about how students felt. They wanted to know more about what students needed. So I think that there was a little bit of a gap there when I first got here, but that there was a ton of motivation from both students and staff here on campus to fill that gap.
That's nice. We needed it. Yeah. We really do. Well, we did. We needed a change. Yeah. What are some of your first goals as a Title IX coordinator?
So originally, I think it was kind of twofold. So one, to get the processes and procedures for Title IX nailed down, which we're still working on. That tends to take some time, and really to create a streamlined process for Title IX investigations if they do have to happen, right? That's one side of my job. The other side is to implement programming, both preventative and educational programming, passive and active, so that the campus community felt more involved in the prevention of sexual violence and interpersonal violence. So, just trying out new programs on campus and seeing what works.
How can people best utilize the platform to raise further awareness towards issues in Sexual Assault Awareness Month?
I think some of it, for me, for our students, if I had a message, would be utilize social media, right? Mm-hmm. Our lives are so entwined with multiple social media platforms. So just do your research, find stories that you think are important, repost them, send them to people that you care about, show that, although we may not have big headline breaking stories here at MSU, thank goodness, people do all over the country. And the idea that we can help share those stories to create awareness about some of the dangers of sexual violence. I think that just that'll help that from happening here, and hopefully help it happening from like the greater society. I think the other thing too is just to have the mindset that although we don't always hear about what happens with these types of cases, that they do happen on campus, and perpetuate, getting rid of some of those stereotypes. getting rid of rape stereotypes and the idea that because what someone wears may indicate whether or not they're a willing partner in a sexual activity, or and being a proactive bystander every single day.
I would just like to thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
And this topic is hard to talk about because of the things that happen to others. I am Halie Aldridge, and I have here with me today
Cydney Menzik
and Trey Jones.
So we are going to have a talk, or, how much info do you know about sexual harassment? And we're going to play a knowledgeable trivia game. It's only 5 questions.
All right, we're ready.
What is consent?
Consent, giving someone permission for anything, I guess. That sounds right.
What do you think?
I would say the same thing. Yeah, I was giving permission, giving, allowance to do something, no matter what it is.
That is correct. It is permission for something to happen or an agreement.
Makes sense.
All right, we're good. We got that one right. I'm a little, let's see about the rest of them.
What is the difference between sexual harassment and domestic violence?
See, I think it's confusing because harassment doesn't have to be anything physical. It could be more verbally. Yeah. So can domestic violence be considered? That be something verbally, or can it be, or is it just physical?
Mm-hmm.
Well, harassment is, I don't think, maybe not quite as physical. And then also I think harassment comes from just from anybody, and domestic violence is usually something more related to in a home setting or relationship setting, I guess. I always think of like domestic violence from partners or something like that.
Well, it can be physical, like, hitting, punching, but it also can be verbal too. Yeah. And then, harassment, like you're literally coming at somebody and they tell you no, right, and you don't listen. So that's basically harassment.
Mm-hmm. Verbal. Okay.
Yeah. I would think of it also comes from just anybody. Coworkers, peers, friends. Even though men don't, you don't think of the man as being harassed, it still happens, but I think it's even lower that they don't report it. So it's even lower than women, because a lot of women don't report it either, and even lower for men.
And so sometimes, I don't know, I've never really dealt with it, but a lot of it can be on accident or someone doing it unintentionally. They think they're making a joke, but it turns out, it's a little more than.
Y'all are really knowledgeable.
Yeah, I know. Whenever you said the idea of what the podcast was over, I was like, oh, okay, I don't really handle serious topics like you guys know on newscasts. I don't do any serious stories. I do more kid stuff or fun stuff. Yeah, that's what I like to do. So whenever I got the topic about sexual harassment, I was like, okay, we'll see.
I was nervous. I was coming into this. I was like, I have no idea.
How many sexual assault survivors are out there?
If it's under 5, I'm going to go with 3 million. If it's over 5, I'm going to go 6. That's a lot of men. That's a lot of men reporting. I didn't think that number would be that high.
I think that too. I would say 2 or 3, yeah. Oh, okay. All right. That's not as bad. 5's a lot. Yeah. 5's a lot. It's a difference between women reporting and men reporting,
like a man in general, if we feel sexual harassment, if someone says something or a man or a woman touches you in a certain way. Because in high school, people would run around hitting each other and touching each other in the locker room. You got stuff like that, which I don't know if you consider that harassment, which I guess by definition it could be. Mm-hmm. But I just think men handle it differently. And if a girl happened to hit on a guy or something, make him feel uncomfortable in a way that kind of makes a man in general feel like, hey, this girl must think I'm attractive. That's a self-esteem booster. Personally, I don't know as far as my own experience, but that's just, making them feel uncomfortable in a work setting, using dirty jokes and stuff like that. A lot of men won't report it, but there are a handful, I'm sure, that would report it as sexual harassment.
We just don't do that to people. A person has been assaulted. Where can they get help from on campus?
We had a new Title IX coordinator. Her, I would say the dean of students or student affairs, anybody, the police. I'm sure if you went to any professor or anything like that, because they've all gone through the training now. They just recently had all training on these topics after incidents. But I'm sure that any professor, any sort of staff or faculty would help anybody out.
Even some students. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, RAs and things like that. People in a position of a little bit of higher authority than just a normal student.
I know this is a hard topic to talk about. I was nervous when I first heard about the topic.
I was nervous too. I was like, oh, how are we going to go about this because of the sensitivity of this matter and the sensitivity of this matter on campus. So I know it's died down in the headlines, but yeah, it's still an issue. And I feel like it's just getting a little more out of hand and more dominant when it comes to these things, that it needs to be addressed and handled.
Right. It's just so touchy. It's like a slippery slope. Not a lot of people are going to want to talk about it, but that's kind of like how it is out there in the real world too. When all the sexual harassment was going on with like the Me Too movement and stuff, it took a lot of courage for people to come out and talk about it. And I think we have to start working on that down here on like the lower level for campus, because, a lot of it goes on behind closed doors, and, it only takes one person to start some sort of movement to bring it out. So it's just very important that, like, if this happens to you or someone that's happened to, try to level with them, see if maybe they can come out, find the help they need, and then, kind of start something that'll make a change. Right. Yeah.
Yes. What are some ways to respond to a sexual violence survivor who went through it and didn't know how to talk about it? Like, how would you respond to them and how would you react to them?
Right. You kind of want to empathize with them. Just let them know, like, hey, it's okay. I'm here for you. We can get you the proper help that you need, just stuff like that.
Exactly. And I think we need to hold people accountable for their actions. No matter men, women, I don't care. Need to be held accountable. It's not, it's not their fault. Don't push them, yeah.
You can believe them. You can you can create a safe space for them to share their story with you. Allow them to share as much as or a little as, like if they want to share you a little bit of what happened or a lot, you can do that. Like, push them, yeah. Like you said, don't push them. Be open and honest and connect with them, like, to available resources, like you pointed out. Just like make them feel comfortable and not like they're getting judged for something that they necessarily didn't do. No, yeah.
And you never know, like, you can never belittle anything about certain things like that. Believe them until, I know that some people do lie. I've been in that situation where people have lied to get back at somebody, but you gotta be there for them. Especially, I know if my sister or any of my friends had gone through something like that, best believe that I'd be there for them, and I guess just sit there and listen and hopefully be there for them.
And that's what they need, because any of it helps regardless. Like, if you think it's not, try to get as much, try to get to them in a way that, like if it's a friend, family member, coworker, any of that.
Right. Yeah, a lot of the times we try to give them excuses and kind of bail them out sometimes, trying to make them feel like the victim in some way, which is definitely the wrong thing to do. You, like you said, you got to be accountable for your actions. You got to take responsibility. Like, yeah, I did something stupid. I shouldn't have done that. I'm not going to do it again.
And y'all said some really good things, and I'm happy about it.
Well, I'm glad.
Thank you guys for tuning in into Anything and Everything. I hope everyone learned something new about this month. We have a couple of events on campus this week. Friday, April 26th, Transfer Day. It's all day. Eastern New Mexico versus Mustang softball to be announced, but it's at 5 p.m. Honors recognition banquet, 6:30 p.m.